Hey everybody. So I already I filmed this, but then it was 3 minutes long and boring. So it's a couple days later. I'm editing and I'm refilming because I wanted to show you this whole video is about closures, how you can do different bag closures. This is Marty. He's the shop manager and is really taking his job seriously lately. I'm gonna put him down here, but he'll find his way back up. So Buckle Guy came out with a new thing. You know we don't like to do infomercial stuff, but this is so cool that I just had to show it to you. When you're doing closures, obviously you're gonna need your dies for your setters if you're doing snaps or rivets. And we love Buckle Guy's setters because you can start with a base and do it by hand, and then you can move to their press. And all of these are like 1/3 to a quarter of the price of anything else on the market. They're stainless steel, they're super high quality, they self-center. I'm gonna, they sponsor us, but I'm waxing poetic because I love them. So what I'm going to show you is this is on the site now. This is their die holder. Now, if we look at it, their designer Kevin is really had some serious genius with this one. You have a set for your big, where is it? Your big die goes there, and then your small die goes there. I have to set it on the ground. So you know that you have the same set, and you can just grab it and go. They come flat packed like this. So all you're going to do to put it together, everything is labeled A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. And with the clips, you just slide a clip in. Now this isn't going to be the right one. I'm just showing you for brevity. You slide the clip in and it clips. And then the key is these little pins, just like they would build workbenches in the 1500s, lock everything in. I think I have flashed this before, but as you can see, we have one going for our chisel sets. These are coming out in February. We finally got the date. They're coming out in February, and we're even going to have this nifty stand that fits all three sizes because we're doing 3.35, 3.85, and 5mm, and it'll fit the single as well. So you can see these. If you take the little wedges out, well, they're installed now. It prevents any movement in the stand at all, which this does. So first thing we're going to do before we start the video is we're going to organize. Oh, I had them all organized and then I took them out for the video. We're going to organize all of our setters by size. And Kaylina and I are always just kind of doing this over at the snap press looking for the sizes we need, mostly because I am terrible at putting them away. And now all we have to do is we have them in the right space. And so, oh, that goes there, okay. So then it also fits, these are our dies for the male and female ends of our line 20 and line 24s. So we're gonna put them in their own section. And you can see there's two different holes here. That's for the large base and the smaller threaded section, which will work both in the hand setter and in the tool itself. So I was filming this, I filmed the whole 3-minute section, it was boring. This might still be 3 minutes, but it had a cat in it, so it's less boring. But go check this out on the website, I think it's like 25 bucks. Totally worth it for organization and really accessible, not super expensive. So let's get into the video about bag closures. So for snap closures, this is my little vloggy camera that I shot that one video on when I had to shoot by myself. It's a Sony something or other. But this case, I just wanted something really simple that would protect it because it kind of floats around, and the whole point of this camera is to just grab what was supposed to be to just grab little shots around the workshop as they happened if we ever got into more vloggy videos, which we haven't yet. But we're utilizing both, I didn't put it in here, but both the glove snap die and the smallest rivet die. And the thing I like about Buckle Guy's rivet dies is that because these pieces are domed, they self-center. So we've done this in a bunch of videos, but you can get really, really quick with your riveting, which is not the case for a lot of other rivet dies. Now, to do a button closure, you have a few ways to do it, right? When you're doing a button closure on something as delicate as a camera, this button sits directly on top of this lens, right? Now, I could flip this around like this, right? But then every time I put it down, I'm putting the camera down, lens down, which is not good. So a solution for that with a closure that is still a button is to use a four-part system, three-part system, four-part system. So you have your basic case, then you have your flap. These two pieces, and this is about 6-ounce leather, create enough padding to where I can then layer a strap with the male end of a glove snap. You don't want to use anything crazy. You don't want to go like mil-spec, line 24, whatever. And then I can just use a simple glove snap. And this is sewn in, this is riveted in. So this is a good closure for laptops. It's a good closure for something like this, where you don't want something as bulky as like a tuck lock, because that would take up the whole thing. And then also on a tuck lock, you have to remember, you have to line this, because underneath the tuck lock, and I'm going to go a little bit quick because we have a lot of closures in this video to talk about, but if you search our channel, we have a video installing pretty much every single closure here as its own video except for one, which we're going to show you how to install today. Second popular option is a non-mechanical closure, is just a simple flap, or a simple strap and flap. So this is one of Kalina's hip bags that she did. You guys have been making tons of these and they're gorgeous, but you don't need any hardware at all. This is full leather, even the lacing's leather, but the main point of this, of featuring this bag in this video, is that the closure is just a strap. Now what if you have something that's not as big and you want to do a non-mechanical closure? You can do something like this. I have to dig through. This is a box of old wallets that I have from long time ago. This is the 5th wallet I ever made. So this is from 2008 and a half, mid 2008. But I did have a concept that I was working on, and I guess technically it's mechanical, but you could rivet these or you could sew them in. You can always do a flap wallet like this. So what we have here is we have a tab, and we have this piece that kind of folds over. So you put your cards in here, and that doesn't bother anything. But the way you close it is this tab just flips under there, and it stays closed. And then you have a nice handle. So never underestimate the power of just going full leather, because you can always do some sort of flap or tuck or something that will keep your wallet closed. And in reality, I mean, half of us carry around just like card cases that don't have any closures anyway. So for wallets, it's really not that important. But if you want to add a little something, if you were to just add something like this, you could even cut this sort of long and fold it over and not have this as a second piece and just do a seam here. And then you could tuck that in like that. Non-mechanical closure. So I like non-mechanical, which I don't know if it's the right word, but I'm just calling it that. You also have stuff like this. This is a ring and a hook, so this is kind of straddles the line between mechanical and non-mechanical, because we are using solid state pieces, but we're not using clips or anything like that for a closure. So for this one, this is the ring and hook, or the ring wallet, which we did for our 10-year anniversary. We brought back. This is the first wallet I ever designed on my own. And with this one, it's just a simple, it's a belt basically. So this would be kind of a hybrid between mechanical and non-mechanical, because most of the closing mechanism is leather, but there's that one little brass, well, it doesn't look brass anymore, but it is. It's solid brass, solid copper, that creates the closure, but the leather does most of the work. So now we're starting to get towards dedicated metal closures. So let's get into those next. Now this one, I guess we're going to double up, right? So this is not a closure, but obviously you can use a buckle. Buckle closures are great. The thing I don't like about buckle closures is that they take time. So if it's on a part where it's on something you're opening and closing like 70 times a day, they just take a little bit of time. So I prefer something like a tuck lock, which we'll get into later, but I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention the simple zipper. That is technically a closure. And once you learn how to sew a zipper in, they kind of opens up your world, as Kayleen has shown us in her last few patterns, as to what you can do with zippers. The last pattern we did with the 270-degree zip, you guys have made so many cool versions of that. And I would very much consider that a zipper. Riri number 4s are great. Riri number 6s for bigger stuff. And then buckles. Oh, we have a piece, but we can't show you because Kayleen just designed it and it's a secret.
Is it a secret?
All right, it won't be a secret. So for buckle closures, something like this. Now, this is a sneak peek. Kaylina made a laced dop bag, a dop kit, or travel kit, or whatever that is just like bonkers. We're going to be releasing a video and a pattern with this. We are actually releasing a laced bag book that will include the 4 bags we've done so far, plus between 2 and 4 additional book bags, and this is going to be one of them. Book meaning like PDF books, so you just have to buy it once. We took a look at our numbers and we were like, you know what, instead of making everyone buy like 6 patterns at $1 a piece, why don't we just put 5 or 6 to 7 patterns together for like $10? It's easier that way. So this is one of the only times that I really use just straight up buckle closures, because this is an item you're only opening once or twice a day, and it's also something that you don't want to open up, like when you're carrying it around. So if I'm traveling, if this is attached to a bag, this is a very strong mechanical closure. It's weight bearing. So you're never going to, it's never going to open when you don't want it to, but when you want it to, it's a super simple open. And not to wax poetic about this specific design because that's not what this video is about, but the way that Kaylina laced this around the whole bag adds a ton of structure. I cannot wait to make this video. Kaylina's been on a design streak, and I have been also on a design streak, but graphic design for all the products we have coming out tool-wise. She's been holding it down with the patterns and really cool stuff for you. But once you're done with it, you're done with your dop kit needs. You close it up, put all your stuff in it, close it up, put it away. That would be what I think is probably the most important or the most appropriate way to use a buckle closure, besides like on a belt or on something like a strap where you're going to kind of set it and forget it. Otherwise, I would go with something like this, which is a tuck lock. Tuck locks, I think it's well known by now, are my unashamedly favorite bag closure because they are mechanical, they're gorgeous, they add rigidity to the bag, and they're super easy. That's it. They're easy to install. We have a whole video on them. They look beautiful. They bring your work to a whole other level. This side, you just 2 screws. If you need to replace it, the one moving part that has a spring, this is never going to break. If this gets worn out, 2 screws, replacement, 5 minutes, you're good to go. So tuck lock is another option. Or you can go hybrid and do tuck lock and buckle. And that's what my personal bag has. But to be honest, I don't use a buckle. It ended up being just kind of for looks, which I'm okay with. You guys have seen this bag a couple times. This is my personal bag. I recently added a shoulder strap. Please hold your applause. It took me a year and a half to finally add the shoulder strap. But on mine, I went with a hybrid closure. So I have both a buckle, which is a center bar roller buckle, and a tuck lock. Now what that means is, on the daily, I just use the tuck lock because I have a couple things that I keep in here. They fit perfectly. This is a wet molded pocket from using a buckle guy wet mold. And you can see nice little change in tone as the leather ages. But the reason that I did this was, say I wanted to fit something ridiculously big. Let's say I wanted to bring my camera. I could actually probably fit it in the case too. But let's say I want to put my camera in here. That's not going to fit. Well, it's going to fit, but it's a tight fit. So if we combine the two, what I can do is I can undo this buckle, which ends, this is a really funny little piece that you have to make. But I can move this down. You can see I've never moved it down before in my life. I can move this down a couple notches and make this longer so that now this fits nice and comfortably. So you can combine multiple closures to make something that will be a little bit more flexible as far as what you can put in pockets, right? So that doesn't look too far off. It would hold it just fine because it's a mechanical closure. But since what I carry in here on the daily is slim, I'm going to put that back to my normal setting, which I believe is the second hole. Yep. And it covers the tuck lock so you don't see it, and tucks in there. And then we'll put this back in here and use this closure. There are just so many different closures, so many different ways to combine them that we wanted to make this video to show you guys that you can get super creative with different ways to close things. Because what happens to me a lot is I'll design a bag, and the last thing I do is design a closure. And for the longest time, I was like, do I use a snap or a buckle? That's it. And then we started working with Buckle Guy, and we found tuck locks and different zippers, and what we're going to show you today, which I believe are twist locks. I have to look at I don't remember what they're called. I think they're twist locks. Okay, so that brings us to our next and final closure, which we're going to do a little demo on. And it's something that we're just starting to play around with in 2023 because it is very handbag-ish. And if you know us, you know that we do, Kayleen designed this, but we are just starting. It took 5 or 6 years to do smaller stuff, build up confidence in people watching our videos, teach the basics, and now we're ready to go on to a little more complicated pieces. And we'll be using more closures like this as we do bags and different wallets and stuff coming up in the next year, 2 years, whatever. So we figured, let's make a bag about closures and let's work up to one of the newer styles that they're not new. They've been around since like the 40s. But we're going to start using them, and we thought we'd show you how to install them so that when the time comes to make a bag with one, we can say, go watch this video, and then we'll show you how exactly to install it. So we're giving all sorts of sneak peeks today. Here's another piece that Kayleen has a design for, full pattern and everything. This is hold on. This is a turn lock. Now, I've never used one of these before, but obviously they've been on every Coach bag, and not every, but most Coach bags and high-end designer bags. This is a very popular opening and closure, and it is so easy to install to get such a professional look. Now, this is also, Kayleen kind of went all out on this. Full brass strap. Can't get much better. I'm showing off for you.
Thanks.
This bag is just sick, and I don't even carry bags. The way I love these, they're like D-rings, but they're not. Buckle Guy designed them. They look so nice. And the little mini clips. But anyway, this is a turn lock. I was kind of always a little scared to install them because you have to cut this hole. But then Kaylina installed it with 2 little rivets and was like, that's super easy. And why don't we use these more? So today, we're going to show you how to install one on just some scrap. And then you can go get yourself some turn locks and have yet another option for closures that just broadens your horizon even more for your bag designing. All right, so we have a simulated flap and a simulated body here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install our pass-through on our flap. I'm not going to use the outside. You could if you want to. I'm going to use the inside, and I'm going to take a pencil, and I'm going to, obviously, if this was a bag, I would center everything, but it's not, so for the sake of brevity, we're just going to, this is what we want to punch out. Now, I'm going to use a 7/16 tool, and I'm actually going to go a little bit past the mark that I made to account for literally the thickness of the whatchamacallit, the pencil lead. If you're using an awl, I would still do this just a tiny bit. It'll cut down on the sanding you have to do once this is installed. Then we're going to cut very carefully these little bumps here, and we're going to sand this all down lightly once everything is installed, so don't worry about that. Now, we have a couple little tips and tricks on installing this that came straight from Kaylina. This is not from me, but if you look at this piece that I installed, you can see that you can see the holes that were punched to install our little spikes here. The way that you can minimize that is they're very pliable, so we're gonna bend these in a little bit so that the marks we make are inside of this border. It doesn't need to be a lot, because if it's too much, then we won't be able to fit our backing piece, but we want it to be enough. Then I'm going to eyeball it, because that's just how I do things. But if you want to measure, go ahead and measure. And of course, if this were a piece, I would have a center line, but this is a demo, so I don't. I'm going to push down. That's going to give us the marks we need. The nice thing about this is you can afford to give yourself, you can punch a little extra, you can afford to give yourself a little extra of a punch on the slots because everything is like a 1/4 inch apart. so you don't have to worry about ripping or tearing or anything like that. It's just, we're just setting this even stronger. Now, a long time ago, I bought these on like Alibaba or something. They're just a simple, they came in like a 10-piece set. They're just single punches for flat pieces. You've seen me use them before. I'm going to use the corner of this. And I'm going to gently tap in. Reason being is I just want to give the points on that piece of hardware a start, and I want to let them do the rest of the work so that we don't have any extra hole on the side of the piece. But you can see the difference where, since we push them in, our holes are on the inside of this ring here, so that you can't see the holes on the outside. It looks much more professional. It also works well because our backing plate is a bit small on purpose so that we can wedge that in there. Now, once you get, it gets a little confusing because once you get this piece in, you're probably going to have to take a hammer and open that up a little bit to get your backer piece in. So we have the quarter pounder. We're messing around with the black version, so we're going to use the black version for this one. Now, when we punch inside of the line a little bit, when we're pushing our leads in, you're going to want to tighten this or hammer this down, kind of like you do lug nuts on a car. You're going to want to go in kind of a star pattern and do a little bit of a time until every single one is at least partially locked in. That way you know that this, no matter how hard you hammer, all of these are going to be good to go. And if we flip this over, look at the difference between that one and that one, where you can clearly see the holes, and this one is nice and clean. And then, like I said, don't be afraid to go a little bit further than your mark, because you can see only a nice clean little leather piece on the inside there. If you want to burnish it, you can. I did not. And that's about as professional as it gets. So the next step is super easy. So the next step, were this a real bag, we'd want to make sure that this was centered so that, and that it fit over the piece that we just installed. It's not. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want my rivet holes to be, and I'm going to punch those out with my rotary punch. And this can be a small hole because we're using tiny rivets. But this rivet just looks so professional and finished. And we can basically assemble the entire thing here. So the only thing is, this is a lot of layers, so it's a little tricky to get everything installed. We're going to do one side at a time. I'm going to take my rivet, I'm going to go through, oh geez Louise, I'm going to go through the piece of hardware, I'm going to go through the hole, I'm going to go through the backing plate, then I'm going to take, I'm going to go through the backing plate, then I'm going to take my end cap, and I'm going to lock that in. Now that's not set, it's just waiting to be set. But now everything's kind of just dangling there waiting for us to finish. With this side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go get that through there, get that through there, and get that in there. Now, if we go to this new rack that we have here, we can pick out the correct size of rivet die and head over to our buckle guy press, set this, and this entire setup is done. This probably takes, what, 5 minutes when you get good at it? It takes no time at all and looks super professional. So we're going to come over to our buckle guy press. We're going to drop the base in. If you don't have the press, you could just get the hand. Oh, I don't have it in reaching distance, but the hand tool works just as well for pressing these. And this, all this is going to do is thread in. I believe regular clockwise, right? Nope, counterclockwise. Then we set our rivet right where we want it. Come down, The press I like, it's small enough it stays out of the way, so it's small enough to actually press these in the actual thing, and you get such a nice polished finish with these double cap rivets. But that's it. So if you don't have the buckle guy press, they have a universal stand that all of their die bases fit into, and then it also comes with a handle that it's floating around the shop somewhere. It screws into, and all of these die bases, no matter what, are going to fit in with that much precision. It's one of the best deals on the market. It's one of the best working tools on the market. I'm not ashamed to say it. We didn't even know they made these when we started working with them. They're amazing. So with that, our installation is, let me move my mic down a little bit. Our installation's done. Nice and clean. Nice and clean. I would be proud to have this on any bag that I made. If you need to, so again, I'm using a 7/16 inch punch, and I'm punching a little beyond the hole that I trace to make sure that no leather is sticking out. But if you do have leather sticking out, you can take a little bit of sandpaper, wrap it around something, pencil, whatever, and just go in here and sand that down. You're not going to really hit the brass or anything. Just be careful you're not going sideways or whatever to scratch the brass. And then we put our closure in, we lock it, and we're done. That's it. So in real life, the bag that you've all seen before, let me move this out of the way. That is how Kaylina installed this. And you can see nice clean opening on that side. And you probably can't see, but nice little riveted opening there. So this is a much more traditional bag closure. Super easy to use, mechanical, easy to replace if it ever needs to be replaced. I mean, I think this closure is like one of the most classic closures there is in bag making. But we've never done an install video on one. So our tricks and tips are specifically to get that hole, get those 4 holes in a little bit so that you're not seeing the punches on, and you can see the difference there. This looks nice and polished. This, you can see the holes. And make sure to punch a little bit outside of your trace line so that you don't have any leather in the hole. But other than that, you can get this down to a 3-4 minute install, no problem. And this is 5-6 ounce leather. So what type of closure is right for you? Well, that's going to be up to you most of the time. There are just a ton of options, and it can get overwhelming and underwhelming because I've had plenty of times where I've designed a beautiful bag and just sat there going, I can't think of a good closure. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's not a flap closure. It's not a good place to put a buckle. You can also do button studs. We didn't even get into those. You know, there's dozens of different closures, but these are some of our favorites. The first thing, remember, zipper is always an option. I know people are afraid of zippers, but we have a lot of videos showing you how to install them. We have a lot of patterns showing you very easy ways to make very nice looking zippered pieces. Remember, you can always use buttons and add layers to protect things that you would otherwise not use a button closure for. Leather is a very nice material to add cushioning and protection. That's why they used it as armor. You could even boil it, I guess. That's what they did back in the day. Non-mechanical closures, your classic flap. I'm not going to pull that other wallet out again, but you know, you can do it with that. You have your buckle closures. Like I said, my preference, a buckle closure, is for something that is open once or twice a day, not 10 times a day. You have your hybrid closures, which for me is perfect. That's why it's on my personal bag. This gets me exactly what I need. And should I ever need to expand it, I have a buckle. It also allows me to hide that closure, which is actually now getting really green and pretty with the brass as it ages. And then lastly, we do have an up-and-coming video about magnetic closures. So don't think we forgot about those. There's just so much to get into that, first of all, that's a bag Kaylina designed that looks sick. We get that coming up. Here's another one that Kaylina designed that looks like it belongs in the Museum of Modern Art, in my opinion. But there are tons of different magnetic closures that are super low profile, but very strong. So we have a video coming up on that, but we wanted to do a video on more traditional closures first. And I also wanted to be a little bit of a salesman and pump this stand because it's just life. It's not life saving. It's a stand. It saves you so much time. We argue. Me and Kaylina argue about who puts the dies where because I'm a slob, and then I'll take something out and just put the right one in and like throw the other ones across the room. Now it's just easy to keep. It was $25, and it just keeps everything in track, and you have plenty of room for a bunch of different dies, and everything is divided the right way. Like, it's a great piece, great, simple, affordable. So go check those out if they're not already sold out, and give this lock a try. I've only installed 3 or 4 of these, and they're super fun. I can't wait to work them into my pieces more because they are a very classic look that I haven't really played with before. So that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed the deep dive into closures. We will be having a magnetic version of this party. I don't know when that's going to be. We want to get a bunch of different magnetic closures and show you all different styles because you can hide them. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with them. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. And as usual, we will see you in the next one, which will be next week.